there, and I'm really loving it. So it's nice to be here today. This is my first time going through the budget process, so it's been a real learning curve for me. We'll start by taking a look at Minot Consolidated School by the numbers, and you can see our enrollment this year is 238. It's come and gone a couple of students, but right now it is 238. Our average class size is 4.4, and I would like to talk a little bit about that because I know that that looks pretty low. We have two classes, grades 3 and grade 6, that are very low numbers, and I had a conversation with Tina at the beginning of this year about the grade 6 class, and we decided for a number of reasons to keep those two classes at those numbers. We're losing that 6th grade class onto 7th grade next year, so our incoming pre-K numbers will be larger than our exiting 6th grade numbers. So projected next year, the average will be closer to 16, which is still slightly lower than Elm Street School and a little bit lower than Poland Community School, but it will be more along the lines of 16 average class size next year. So we have 31 students who have IEPs or are on 504 plans, and that's 13% of our student population. And we have 40% free and reduced lunch. That's up from last year because, as you heard from Rick and Ryan, we really pushed, all of us really went out and pushed parents to at least fill out the paperwork so that if they were eligible, we could get some reimbursement for that. The number of teaching staff, we have 15 regular education classroom teachers. That's pre-K to 6. We have 3 specialists, and you can see it's the art, music, and PE. We have 2.5 special education teachers. We do have a functional life skills program at Minot Consolidated School for the K to 3 population, and we have 8 students in that class. So one of our special ed teachers is the special ed teacher for that class, and then we have a 1.5 that serves the general population. So again, one of the special ed teachers is the functional life skills special ed teacher, and then the remaining 1.5 special ed teachers serves the general population.
And what grade level is that functional life skill?
K to 3.
K to 3.
Yep. And that again is district-wide. We have a speech and language therapist who also serves as our special ed team leader. We do not at this point have a school counselor, but we have, you can see the Part .5 or half-time social worker, and then we have a 5th part-time shared GATE teacher, which is the gifted and talented. Thank you.
And Kim, your art, music, and PE are not full-time positions either.
They're all
so,
shared
yeah.
with Elm Street School. And then our total number of ed techs, we do have 8 functional life skill ed techs, one for each of the students. The students that are served in that functional life skills program really require an ed tech for many different reasons. Many of them are medically fragile. Many of them, have mobility and self-help needs. So we do have 8 functional life skills ed techs. Bless you. We also have 3.5 special ed techs for our general population of students. We have our library is an ed tech position. Our librarian is an ed tech position. We have our pre-K ed tech, and we have 1 general ed interventionist who serves all students and provides interventions for reading or math. And then we have a one Title I ed tech, and then 1 principal. Any questions on the numbers? Okay, so we'll move on to the budget page. I'm going to go right down to the 5th line. I believe it would be on your budget. It's the first 2213 line. 1,004 zeros and then 2213. That's the stipended line, and you can see it's gone down a little bit. That's because part of that line includes mentors that we're required to have for new teachers. Last year we had 6 mentors for our new teachers, and next year we're going to only need 3. So that is the reason for that decrease. You've heard a lot about the stipend benefits, excluding retirement, and the reason why those have come up and down. I'm going to go down to the
Could you just speak quickly, the aid benefit line though is up quite a bit. Is that a change in a couple of people, or?
That,
It's an 80% increase,
that-
about $5,600.
Yeah, that difference is the difference from going from a single plan to a family plan, two adults or adult with
Yeah.
child.
it is the same librarian, but maybe she's made a change, it sounds like
Yeah.
she's made a change in her. You've heard about the software-related repair and maintenance. It's the video license that we have, the general supplies, let's see, books in the library. You've heard Rick say that that's $15 a student, so that's changed a bit, it's gone down a little bit. Dues and fees, which is the last line in the library bunch, that's the 2220 line. That's up a little bit, and that is for our license. Or is
The
that's
video
the
license.
Video license, yeah. That's for the video license, so that we don't break copyright laws, so that we stay within those laws. The next clump, the 2230 bunch, is all technology. What I'd like to just point out there is the 48% increase in the purchase professional services and tech contract. That is our contract for one of our printers. Is that right, Linda?
Which line are you?
The 2230
53001.
Oh,
Professional
one.
services, yeah.
Print-
5301 is the printing contract.
printing contract, so that's up a lot. We, is that our colored printer contract, or just the old?
It's the addition of the color printer plus the cost associated with it.
Okay. So, anything else in that line that you would like information on?
So you added
Let-
a printer.
Yeah.
We did
What-
add a printer,
Okay.
yeah.
And again, Linda will cover
Linda will
all the
talk a little
details
bit
with
about
those
that.
lines.
It's not just an increase in cost, it's an additional.
It
Yes.
is.
So that's different.
Well, no, it replaced,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yeah.
The other technology line is the technology-related hardware, and that, again, Rick mentioned it, that's the added projectors to bring have every class have a projector so that they can really utilize, project student work, project information off their iPads. It's a great tool for teachers to have available. So we'll go into the principals, the 2400 lines, the principal lines. You've heard a lot about the benefits and the retirement costs going up and down. The tuition reimbursement line, the third one down, I believe, on your page, is, again, it shows a 0% increase, but there was nothing there prior to this year. So there was nothing there this year. So the cost of a University of Maine program, coursework, is about $1,300. So I have put in $1,300 in case I want to take a class, or whoever the principal is wants to take a class. Purchase professional services, you've heard Rick and Ryan talk about that. That line was moved to regular instruction to better reflect what those services are for. The employee training and development, that again that's for my training and development, so that's attendance to the MPA conference, and that went down just a bit from last year. MPA conference, and any other professional development that I would need. Postage is the same, telephone is pretty much the same. Employee travel, that has gone down a little bit, and that's just my travel costs when I go to conferences. General supplies is the same, and dues and fees has gone up a little bit. Again, you heard Ryan mention the MPA, the NAEP, and the Optimist Club fees. The next bunch, the 2600 and the 2610, are all facilities maintenance and custodial figures, and Gary and Kim will go over those. You've heard Rick and Ryan talk a little bit about the plowing and the benefits that are associated with that. So we'll go into the 3 to 6 lines, which is the 1100, 1000 bunch. So it's the 1,000, 1,100, 1,000 bunch. Let's see. The benefits and the salaries, you've heard discussion about that already. So we're gonna flip over to the next page where we get into the purchase professional services. And this again is for 3 to 6. That has gone up a little bit because of the move that we made to better align some of those services to reflect that those are services for teachers, not administrators. So those are in the teacher purchase professional service line. Employee training and development, that's down a bit. I think that there were some things that were budgeted. Teachers College came out of that, and there were some things that were in there last year that have changed, have been taken out. So we still have some money in there that we can use for that, for those purposes. And now the tuition to charter schools, that's the line that I don't have to kind of offset some of my increases. So my bottom line percent increase is going to look larger because we did not have any tuition to charter school costs. Employee travel, again, this is for 3 to 6, and I kept 250 in there. It is down 82%, but I wanted to keep some money in there just in case staff went to conferences and requested money for travel. The instructional supplies line is also down, and this is just an area where I felt I could trim a little bit in order to meet a more responsible bottom line. General supplies came out, some periodicals came out, some subscription money came out of that line. And the books as well is down quite a bit. Last year, we needed to order a kit, a leveled literacy intervention kit. We purchased that with last year's money, with this year's money, so we don't need that for this year. So that's down quite a bit.
And that one kit was over $5,000,
Yes,
so that was a
expensive, yeah.
one-time,
Yeah.
pretty big expense in that line.
And it's a great intervention. It's used all the time by our Title I interventionists. So it was a good purchase, a worthy purchase. Again, cost for trip transportation, that's remained the same. So now we're into the K-2 lines, the 11-20 lines. And you've heard for the purchase professional services, you've heard that kind of attributed to the Ferry Beach costs. And that was a new line for my consolidated school. The employee training and development, the thing that was the training that remained in that line was some summer work that I hope to do with staff around PBI, positive behavior interventions and services, interventions and services. So that 750 covers a few staff to come in the summertime and spend some time really developing that program at my consolidated school. Are you all set with where we are?
No, I'm lost.
No, I'm sorry, I'm curious
If you-
about something.
Which
so-
page are you on?
If you look,
We're on the last page. Yep, in the 1120. It's about halfway down the page.
No, the last page.
So it must be
I have
next to the last page for us. Our last page is a very
Page
short
3.
page.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Your
All right.
pages are different. I'm so sorry.
Okay, okay.
Did you have a question?
My question was, I'm trying to just kind of make the big picture math work, and I'm trying to account for the differences in the budget for two schools that are similarly sized, not exactly the same, but particularly have similar staff. And your increases still, even without the offset for the charter schools, the increase in mine, it is still bigger. So I was curious, usually that relates to staff. So when I look at I was just going back and looking at the teacher salary line for MCS and for Elm Street, and it's significantly higher at MCS, given a system-wide contract, therefore I conclude mine, it must have a more senior staff.
And I got
Very-
five, I
yes.
have 5.
And you have 5 new teachers, and
Yes.
your teachers are
Yeah.
cheap.
So let's
Got
see,
it.
how did we
Ish.
figure this? I figured that 50% of
Okay.
my staff has been teaching there from 1 to 15 years.
Mhm.
50% of the staff has been there for more than 15 years. So it's and I've got a teacher there who's been teaching for 40 years.
And,
Yeah.
and sometimes that increase can also
that
be
Yes.
in the facilities line, the custodians. So
Yeah.
if you kind of glance down through, you might see some big ticket items at different places that
Sure.
offset
Yeah.
that.
All right,
And
thanks.
I think when you have heard all of them, you'll go, oh, that's where this big increase has come from. But yeah, the salaries really are look differently at every school, because it could be that there are 8 teachers at one school that were way off scale, and we're catching them up, and there another school, which you'll see at the high school, they may have 15 teachers that are frozen and didn't get any raises because they're already above the scale. So it's our salaries are for this year and for next year, we're in this contract cycle is a catch up to get everybody being paid equivalent based on years of experience. We didn't have a common scale before.
And in the 4-year program, did we hire a different teacher?
She,
Okay.
Yep.
yes, she
Yep.
is new this year.
Okay, so that explains that one.
Minot's teacher went to Elm Street.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the other way around.
Yeah,
Elm
Elm
Street's
Street
went
came
to
to
Minot,
Minot.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So just a few more in the K-2 bunch, the 11, 20, 1,000 group there. The employee travel, there was nothing there, and I put in 250 just to cover employee travel when they go to conferences or workshops. Instructional supplies, you've heard us talk as a team here about reducing that number, just to, again, to get to a bottom line. And the books was also reduced quite a bit. I think we're okay there, but again, that makes me a little nervous, both of those reductions in instructional supplies and books. I think we'll be okay. We'll make do. The 4-year program, things are, pretty much steady. Again, instructional supplies took a bit of a cut, and we also there was not a line for books for the 4-year program, so I put that in this year with $200 there. Any questions? Okay. So cuts and priorities. You've heard us all talk a little bit about employee training and development cut, and that's basically the Teachers College. We had, I budgeted for 5 or 6 of our staff to go, because 5 or 6 of our staff serve as grade level facilitators, and in our initial discussion, those were the people that we had talked about sending. Employee travel to that week-long workshop has been cut. Instructional supplies over the pre-K to 6 level, that figure of $7,275 has been cut. Books over the pre-K to 6 level, that's the cut there. And then the stipends that I talked about, going from 6 to 3 mentors for our new teachers, that's the savings there. And the priorities, as Ryan shared with you, is the half-time school counselor at Minot Consolidated School. Coming from a school system that had both a school counselor and a social worker, I really miss the service that school counselor provides for kids. It's huge. So that is a really big priority.
I would just add to that is historically, our schools, our elementary schools did have both of those positions. And when we came to that point where we needed to make some significant cuts, we had to make a decision about whether it was the guidance counselor or social work. And we went to social work, but it wasn't because we didn't see a need. It was just we had to make some significant cuts.
Yeah, I was told and that's what we were talking about at the beginning, when you go from almost a $22 million budget to a $17 million budget, our budget is about 80% salaries. And when you have 330 employees, the only place you're going to save $5 million is to cut programs and services and staff. And what I was told is they had a full-time guidance at each of the schools.
When it was
in the past.
When it was K through 8,
Yes.
there was a full time of each of those. But now as a pre-K 6, even at halftime, there are still going to be needs. There aren't
Yeah,
gonna be
absolutely.
met.
I mean, nationwide, schools are seeing an increase in social emotional needs, starting younger than any of us would want to think they start at. And then the math curriculum, please change that figure from 40,000 to 20,000. I think I was using Rick's template and didn't make that change, so that's $20,000 for Minot Consolidated School. And then the laptop cart that, we have 2 laptop carts of 20 laptops at Minot Consolidated School right now, and it's a real juggle to have
15 teachers.
Juggling those 2 laptop carts of 20. So 40 in all, but 2 carts of 20. So that remained on my priority list, and Linda will talk more about that.
But that's, when you did the overview earlier, you talked about 2 laptop carts for PCS and Elm Street, right?
So
this would be
that's
a
not-
potential third.
Yeah, so and Linda will talk about this in her presentation, but we really need 2 carts at PCS.
Yep.
1 cart at Elm Street and 1 cart at Minot Consolidated. And when we got down to really discussing where our biggest priorities were, we knew that we had the 2 that were maintenance of effort. Then we had the conversation about if we can only get 1 more, if we can get 1 more, where would it be? And I think Linda was saying that PCS's second was more important than Minot's third,
Right.
because,
Yep.
or it would be their 1 for next year,
Right.
because
Right.
she has a cart that's only 3 years old.
Yeah, okay.
So PCS is in the worst shape for technology of the 3 schools, but Linda will give you.
Minot also had a computer lab that was retired that has not been replaced, so that part was great.
Yeah, so it's not that we don't have the needs there, and, like I said, we've really pushed, we being maybe me, really pushed the administrators to narrow it down to our biggest needs, because you see the needs list is great, and trying to figure that out, but wanting, again, to be transparent, so,
So when we go
Great, thank
back to your maintenance of effort,
yes.
and it was 50,000 for replace laptops and cards.
That's PCS and Elm Street, because they don't have any computers less than 6 years old, and they're very limited in what they do
And
have.
that's 2 sets?
One for each.
1 for each, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So we are just 10 minutes over our agenda, which I think is pretty good. So we had a lot of presentations this morning, so I think we've done well. And we are ready to have